Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And my guest today is Dre Baldwin, the CEO and founder of Work on Your Game, Inc. Dre played professional basketball for 9 years. He has given 4 TEDxTalks on discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative, and he has authored 33 books. He has also published over 8,000 videos, and his content has been consumed over 100 million times, to date. So way to make an impact. And as if that wasn't enough, Dre invented his Work on Your Game framework to help entrepreneurs build their mindset, strategy, and systems. So welcome, Dre, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Well, thank you for having me here, Claudia. I'm looking forward to this conversation. See where it goes.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. So, Dre, let's start with something like an easy question. Why did you decide to walk away from professional basketball to build your own business? And how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
That's a great question. The reason why I walked away is it happened in several steps, because my background, which is not in my bio, is that I came from a Division III college, and that's the third tier of professional sports for people who don't know the sports world. And getting into professional basketball, I had to kind of hustle and market and sell myself just to get the opportunity. So I wasn't the normal athlete story where all the opportunities are coming to you and you had to pick one. There were no opportunities coming to me and I had to go make one. So once I got into pro basketball, Claudia, I knew that every time I got a contract, that I might not get another one. So there were times where there was a gap in my employment because it was hard for me to get the next contract after the last contract. So at one of those points in my mid to late 20s, I was without a contract, waiting for the phone to ring. And I've always been a big reader. I was already interested in entrepreneurship, and I knew that would be my next step after sports. But again, given my background, what I just told you, there were times, Claudia, I wasn't sure when after sports was going to start. Right after sports might be right now. Right, it might be 5 years from now. It might be 10 years from now. And funny thing with professional sports is, are you a big sports fan, Claudia? You follow sports?
I'm a runner myself, so I'm a huge fan of doing sports, not so much watching.
Not like watching. Okay. So in professional sports, especially team sports, where somebody has to sign you to a team to play, most athletes don't get to choose when their careers end. So it's a funny thing I heard a player say. He said, sometimes you're the last person to find out your career is over, right? Oh. So, and the thing is, I had always been a big reader, was always into entrepreneurship. And at that point, I wasn't sure if I would get another call. And at the same time, I need to figure out how do I have some control over my income. So I started doing things that we now consider normal on the internet, like creating content, utilizing social media, and what we now call building a brand. But none of these were ubiquitous terms back in 2008, 2009. So around that time period, which was a few years into my pro career, I started building the pieces and laying down the foundation of what we now have as Work on Your Game. Now, luckily, the phone did ring again, and I kept playing pro till 2015. But the last 5-6 years of my career, I had 2 things going at the same time. So I was already starting to build this audience on the internet through content, mostly through content at the beginning. Then that led to books and then everything else. And then in 2015, when I stopped playing, I wasn't starting from zero. I already had momentum. I already had an audience. I already knew pretty much what I was going to do, who I was talking to, and how I wanted to say it. So only thing that changed was I just stopped focusing on basketball and really started focusing on, it started with really like the mindset type of things. And then it moved into really helping entrepreneurs, because those are the people who were attracted to the message, because I wasn't playing basketball all day anymore, because basketball players, they kind of tailed off and entrepreneurs picked up. So that's how it started.
That's super interesting. And I like that you already thought ahead and created the foundation of your business while you were still involved in the professional basketball.
Right.
And before we talk more about your work, I just want to know, I've always been fascinated by professional athletes and their strategies to get in the zone. So did you have a pre-game routine? And if so, what did it look like?
Yes, I always had a pregame routine, and it depended on. I tried to stick to it, and depending on the venue, sometimes you didn't have the time or the space to do what you need to do. But for me, it was always, before I left my residence or hotel room, wherever we were, I would listen to certain music. I would just craft playlists that would just kind of get me into the mindset that I need to get into before the game. Then it was making sure I got to the venue early enough that I could do my warm-up routine, whatever my dynamic stretching warm-up routine was, and then whatever the team was doing, like layups, and team would do stretch together and things like that, and then I'd be ready to go. But the biggest thing was just getting myself into the right mental space before the game, which was like usually consisted of whatever I was listening to before we even got to the venue, because once you get to the venue, you don't always control the situation, which I learned very quickly in my career.
Right. You have to find the things that you can control.
Right.
And are you still using something like a pre-game routine in your business today, say before you go on a podcast or something like that? Do you have an equivalent?
As for business, no. I still work out every day. I run myself, and I still have a pre-game routine for workouts that I do every day. So, for example, today was a boxing gym. Tomorrow will be running. So I have pre-game routines for those things that I'm doing physical stuff. But as far as this stuff where I'm just talking and I have a suit on, no, I don't have a pre-game routine for this. Usually I'm already kind of in my space because I do these during the course of my workday. So no, I don't have a routine for when I'm sitting and talking. This is as far as the intensity level is much lower than anything physical activity.
Yeah, I guess it always depends on what you compare it to and what you're used to. Like, professional basketball is pretty high stress, I would assume.
Yeah, well, it's much more activating than to sit and talk on a Zoom call.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So how difficult was the transition from basketball to entrepreneurship after you've already built that foundation that you already talked about? And what did you find most challenging about it?
I found that the transition was not that difficult for me, Claudia, simply because of what I shared, that I had already started. Now, most athletes, and if I had had my way as an athlete, I would have had to start from zero because I would have just been gainfully employed all the way through, and I wouldn't have ever had the necessity of building anything on the internet while I was still playing. I would have just focused on playing basketball. But because of the fact that there were times I wasn't sure I would get another contract, I started building. So by the time I decided to stop playing in 2015, I already had the pieces in place. I had an audience. I already had content. I had already started writing books. I already had, I don't know if I had any courses out yet, but I was ready to launch courses and put those out. I was already ready to do all of that stuff as soon as I stopped playing. So the only thing that changed was that I just had more time to actually do it. I was already doing live streaming. I was doing all of that stuff before I even finished playing basketball. And again, this stuff was all becoming relatively new at the time. Now, to answer the second part of your question, what was the most challenging part of it? Well, the first thing that I decided I was going to do was I wanted to get into professional speaking because I had developed the skill of speaking, and I had hours, thousands of hours of practice speaking to a camera because I was making all these videos on YouTube. So I had all this practice and live streaming and all of that. And then when I started reaching out to event planners and organizations about speaking at their events, I was met with a healthy amount of skepticism from people because they were like, well, all your speaking was on the internet. That's different from speaking in front of a live audience. And they didn't understand. I could speak in front of a live audience the same way that I'm speaking to you right now. There's no difference for me, but they didn't know that. And these people are traditional. They come from a certain background. And this internet thing was still relatively new in 2015. So they were used to hiring speakers who their experience is speaking on live stages as opposed to somebody whose experience is speaking on the internet. So that was a challenge. And I made a lot of cold calls, talked to a whole lot of people. And I was able to book some speaking gigs and started with some free stuff, got into some paid stuff, and it was good. But the challenge for that overall, and this is not at the start, but overall, and I'm sure we'll get into this, was that I just didn't like the fact that I was at the every time I need to make more money, I need to go book another gig, and somebody had to approve of me. And I didn't really like that. I don't like that kind of business model. I like something where I have a little bit more control, or a lot more control. So as around the time that COVID happened, when there were no events for a while, that's when I really pivoted and really stopped focusing on trying to book speaking gigs, because I just didn't like the design of the business, the structure of it.
Right. Because you're not in control. That makes sense.
Right.
Now, what has been the most important mindset shift that allowed you to build your successful business? Is there anything in particular that comes to mind?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'll tell you, here at Work on Your Game, so far this year, our number of transactions, successful sales transactions, when somebody hits the buy button and buys something, is down 80% so far in 2023, 80% down, but our revenue is up 41%.
Nice.
And the reason is, and the simple reason is, I stopped focusing on lower ticket items and start focusing on higher ticket sales. And so if there's a mindset shift for you right there, is that I just looked at the things that we were selling, and I said, why don't we just put more energy into selling the high ticket stuff and less energy in selling the low ticket stuff? We don't have to sell as much of it, but we still make way more money, even with fewer transactions, which is exactly what's happening. So that is a big mindset shift for me that is hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around, simply because a lot of entrepreneurs, I found, Claudia, I don't know what your experience is, a lot of entrepreneurs have very unhealthy mindsets around money, which is a hard thing if you're trying to build a business. So that's been the biggest thing for me, at least the thing that's fresh on my mind, because it's happening right now.
That's super interesting. And it sounds like a practical application of the 80-20 rule, where you just focus on the 20% that give you 80% of the results.
That's right. Exactly.
So let me ask you a maybe a related question. What's the best advice that you've ever been given? And also, what's the worst advice that you've ever been given?
The worst advice I've ever been given was go to school, get a degree, get a job, and live happily ever after. That was the worst advice. And I got that from a lot of people. So I won't name any names. Now, the best advice was, what was the best advice I ever got? The best advice, I don't know if I can say there's any one individual who gave it to me, but the best advice I would say came from, I would have to say when I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, because that book really opened my mind to what entrepreneurship was and how it worked. And I read that book. I was in college at the time, majoring in business, but I had never been taught anything. Nothing that was in Robert Kiyosaki's book was ever taught to me in any classroom in college. And I have a business degree from college. So the things that he was talking about were eye-opening to me, because I got introduced to him I got brought to a network marketing meeting. And there, and anybody who's ever been to a network marketing meeting, you know that 70% of the presentation is not about the product or the offer or whatever the company is. 70% of it is about just breaking your false beliefs about money and, why you don't need to go this route, but you might want to consider this route, which is them just opening your mind to the concept of being an entrepreneur rather than just being an employee. And when I heard that presentation, it really opened my eyes. I said, it just made sense to me. This makes sense. Even if I don't do it their way, I don't use their vehicle, the ideas made a ton of sense to me. So and then they said, hey, get the personal development books. And that was Robert Kiyosaki was one of them, Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy. And that's what opened my mind to it. So the best advice, again, I don't know where I got it from. I think I was just always been an open-minded individual. When I saw that little billboard posting on my college campus that said, hey, make extra money on the side during the summertime as a college student, I ripped off the little number and I called it. And that's how I got introduced to network marketing. And that's where everything else got opened up.
It's funny how it sometimes goes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, with your background in sports, you're used to being coached. So in your opinion, what are the characteristics of a good coach, and what are you looking for in a coach or mentor?
That's a great question. The characteristics of a good coach is, first of all, the coach is their job is to help you get better. And over here at Work on Your Game, we are in a performance and a results-based business. So everything is about making sure that you're performing at your best and that your performance is leading to the actual results that we want. And the coach's job is to make sure that they communicate that, because the coach's job is not necessarily to be your friend. Now, your coach could become your friend, but they don't have to be your friend. Their job is to help you perform, which means they might need to yell at you. They might need to point out some mistakes that you're making. They may need to correct you. They actually will need to correct you over and over again. And the recipient needs to be able to take that. And one thing that I like to say, Claudia, is that the best coaches have the best players. And so a good coach does a good job of choosing the right players. And when I say players, I don't necessarily mean for sports. I mean, it's metaphorically. And anybody who works in the coaching space, life coaching, business coaching, etc., the best way to make your coaching practice successful is to pick good clients. So make sure you're not taking on bummy clients who are not going to do the work because they're going to make you look bad. All right, your coaching is not that magical. And a lot of coaches don't want to admit that, but this is the truth, that any of you who has ever had a client who was really good and they got great results, here's a secret, open secret. They would have got those results even if you didn't exist. They just would have got it from somebody else. So your job is to pick the right clients, people who are going to win, whether you're around or not. And then you just get to you get to kind of guide them towards that win, but they were going to win with or without you. Like Michael Jordan would have been great with or without Phil Jackson, right? Phil Jackson didn't make him great. He just guided it along. He didn't make that happen. So all of us as coaches, the best thing a coach does, the best trait of a good coach is they pick the right players.
There's a lot of truth to that. So, I mean, we're just the catalysts for their success.
Yes,
and
right word. Yeah.
It's so true. If you have people who are not willing to do the work, there's just nothing that you can do as a coach. If they're not willing to do the work and to incorporate the feedback and to accept the feedback and to understand that maybe constructive feedback is coming from a place of wanting to help them and not from a place of wanting to criticize them. Right. If you have people who don't understand the difference, then there's just not much that you can do for them, right?
That's right. There's nothing you can do for them. You can't make somebody be successful. That's a misnomer. We all like to, we present ourselves as if we can because that's part of the marketing, but that's not the truth.
Yeah, you can just help them along the way.
Exactly.
Now, we all know that entrepreneurship is this wild roller coaster ride. So what is your strategy for dealing with the inevitable challenges that you encounter along the way?
Mental toughness is number one, first thing that comes to mind. So that's one of the framework pieces of what Work on Your Game is all about. And the mindset piece is mental toughness is simply your willingness to remain disciplined, which is showing up and doing the work, and confident, willing to put yourself and your materials out there boldly and authentically, even though the process that you've been following to this point and all that discipline, all that confidence hasn't been working. So you've been doing all the right stuff, but it's not working. Mental toughness is about how much can you keep doing that right stuff, even though it hasn't yet produced a result, because just because you do all the right things does not guarantee you're going to get the outcome that you want. But in the long run, in the aggregate, I don't know what kind of running do you do, Claudia? Distance running?
Yes. Up to
so like half marathons. What did you say?
Yep. So the longest I've done was a 50K last year.
50K is, how long is it? How far is a 50K?
So is that 32 miles or something?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're distance running. I like 10K. That's about the zone that I've settled into. I've done a couple marathons, but no more. So when it comes to the long run, the marathon of business, if you do the right things and you're following the right process, in the long run, you're going to get where you want to get. You're going to get the results that you want. Doesn't mean every single time you're going to get the result that you want, but on the big picture, you will. So mental toughness is about that stick-to-itiveness, that persistence, that grit, that determination. You can use those all synonymously in this context to make sure you're following the right process and sticking to it, even though it isn't always going to give you exactly what you want. I mean, nobody gets the win every single time, but the most successful people stick to the disciplines, and in the big picture, they end up getting what they want. They end up winning.
I love that. But trusting the process, even though you don't see the results yet, is something that can be really, really hard. Do you have any tricks for that?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, we have a framework here called The Third Day. So if people are watching this on video, that book is right here over if I move out the way, right there, that red book right there over my left shoulder. And Third Day is all about how do you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it? And and the key here is not pushing yourself to do it or cajoling yourself to do it or finding some motivational speech on YouTube to rah hype you up to do it. It's about putting a structure in place to make it easy for you to have that discipline. And that's what the third day is about, because the subtitle of the whole framework is the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. And what makes somebody a professional by definition is that you do something as your main paid occupation. Well, if we think about this on the consumer side of things, we don't pay for anything we don't know what we're going to get. If you don't know what outcome you're going to get from something or someone, you're not willing to give them money because you don't know what you're going to get. Like, who would pay for that? Nobody pays for the unpredictability. We pay for things when we know what we're going to get from them. So you as a professional, what makes you a pro is the fact that you show up and you deliver every single time, regardless of how you feel. And every professional out there are days when we don't feel like being at work. There are days we don't feel like doing that thing. There are days athletes don't feel like being at the gym. Claudia, I'm sure there are days you don't feel like running, but you still go out there and do it. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And what makes someone a pro at what they do is that they are consistently showing up and delivering so that the consumers, the people who are giving you money, know what they're going to get out of you. And they can't even tell which days you felt like it was days you didn't feel like it because your performance is that consistent.
Let's stay with the systems. What does a typical day in your life look like? So what are the systems that you have put in place, and what are those high performance habits that you have developed that allow you to stay happy, healthy, and productive? Great.
So let's use today. So I woke up today about 3:30, and I usually expect about 3:45, but as I said before we start recording, my 11-month-old son, he decided to wake up at 3:30. So I was up at 3:30. So I got up at 3:30, so what I do is I drink a liter of water. Then I do my yoga and meditation, which yoga takes about 10 minutes. And the meditation app, I don't do like sitting down cross-legged with incense burn. I will fall asleep. But I have the Calm app. So that meditation takes about 30 minutes. Then I'm just shaving. Then I go to the gym, boxing gym today. Every other day is between boxing and running outside. And I'm in Miami. So it's 80-something degrees at 4 in the morning out here. So then I go run. And then it's boxing gym today, running tomorrow. Then I'm back home by about 7:30. Then I'm getting dressed, and then I'm in my office at my desk, and I'm getting to work. So I use an app called Airtable. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but I use Airtable basically to have all my tasks laid out that I need to get done, know what's prioritized, and then I'm going to work. Now, each day between, let's just say 9 to 5, so to speak, even though I started a little bit before that, is different because some days I have coaching calls with individual clients. Some days I have group calls. Some days I'm doing conversations like this with people like yourself. And sometimes I have in-person meetings because Miami, people are in town. In the summertime, not so much, but in the fall and winter, there are a lot more people in town here because it's so hot here. But anyway, but that's what my day is like until about 5 or 5:30. That's when I go out for a evening walk. I usually take my son out for a walk and my wife a rest from being with him all day. And then I'm trying to be in bed. My goal is to be in bed by 7:30. And then I'm lights out no later than 8 o'clock. But I've been off that schedule a little bit recently. Some of it is due to me because I let my work kind of spill over past 5 o'clock, which I don't want to do. So I got to tighten my discipline up and make sure that that's not happening. But that's what my normal day is. But between 9 to 5, it's different every single day because it depends on what I'm working on. So right now, for example, before we got on this call, sometimes I'm on Clubhouse because I do live streams and I create a ton of content. I'm recording my podcast different days. My podcast comes out every day. It's a solo show, about 20, 30 minutes each episode. Then, and I'm also, I have 2 physical mailings that I send out every month to members of my university. So I'm writing articles for that or just cleaning those articles up and making sure that they're ready to go out to print. And right now I'm also in the process of hiring. I'm either going to, and Claudia, maybe you can give me some feedback on this. I'm either going to hire another assistant or I might employ some artificial intelligence to be my assistant. I've been talking to this AI bot. It's like a person, but it's not a person. And if they can do everything they say they can do, then I don't need to hire a human. So, but I don't know. But either way, I'm hiring somebody.
That's super interesting. Let me definitely know how it goes. I'm talking to Chat a lot. He's my new best buddy. But I'm not sure if I can always trust him. So it's still...
Yeah, the early adopters, that's where the opportunity is. So that's why I'm thinking I could be an early adopter here, or should I just default and hire another human being? So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm just waiting for them to get ready because they're in beta. A lot of these AI bots are in beta right now. So I'm telling them, well, I'm ready to get started now. How do I pay? And you can't pay. They won't take my money. They're like, we're still in
Oh,
beta. We're not ready. So
okay. Let's see how
yeah,
it goes. Now
I'll
that
let you
we
know.
know, yes, please do. Now
Yeah.
that we know more about you, let's talk a little bit more about your work. So, how do you take those six-figure earners to seven figures? Can you outline your work on your game framework for us?
Sure. 4 pieces of the framework are mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. So going through them, mindset is the foundation. So how I told you, mental toughness, the mindset pieces are discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. So those are the 4 sub pieces under the framework of mindset. And the reason why we start with mindset is because mindset is, we believe, the foundation of all success, is also the foundation of all failure. Anytime someone is succeeding, the
Agree.
bottom line of why they're succeeding is something that's going on in their head, is their mental wiring. And if someone is not getting the outcomes they want, the bottom line of it, the foundation of why, there's something going on in their mind. It is not the tools. It is not the technology. It's not yes, it could be the strategy or the system that is faulty, but there's something in their mind that led them to using that strategy or that system. So mindset is always the foundation here. And the reason that is for me is because, again, as an athlete, how I got started in what became working on your game is because the athletes who were watching me on the internet do basketball stuff started asking me about mindset because they saw that I was coming to the gym every day. Like, why do you work out every day? How do you have the discipline to keep doing it? Or how do you get the confidence to perform in the game? Or why'd you keep trying when you only played Division III college ball and there were times you didn't have a job? Why'd you keep trying? So all of these things led me to talking about these mental tools. And when I started talking about them, Claudia, what was interesting is people who didn't play sports started hearing me talk about it and say, Dre, I know you're talking to athletes, but what you're talking about applies to everybody. This applies even outside of the sports realm. So that's how is one of the ways I was able to smoothly transition from what I was doing to what I am doing, because one of the key pieces of what I was telling the basketball players also needed to be told to the entrepreneurs. So that's why mindset is the foundation. That's number 1. Number 2 piece is the strategy. Strategy is simply a plan of action, is the game plan. What are we going to do? Most people, Claudia, you probably know in your work in professional and personal development, is that most people have a goal. They have something they want to achieve, whether it's a specific goal that's written down or is a vague goal in their head. Like, I want to make $1 million, or I want to get a car, or I want to help my mom out, whatever it is. I want to retire. Then they immediately go into the action. They just start doing stuff. And this is where most people start, is by doing stuff. And it's not a strategy. They might think it's a strategy, but it's not. But they just go into doing things. They just start taking action. And the challenge with this is if you just go straight into doing things without first figuring out the mindset and the way of thinking about how you're going to do it, and you don't take the time to plan, but you just go straight into action, you could do all the quote unquote right things and still not get the outcome. And this is why a lot of people get frustrated, because they're doing stuff but not getting the outcome, even though they may be doing the exact same things as somebody who has a lot more success than them. It's because that person followed a different formula. They executed the recipe properly and another person did not. So the strategy is about creating a plan of action for, all right, here's where you want to be. Here's where you are. Let's just deconstruct this and figure out what steps need to be taken, giving ourselves enough leeway that if something doesn't go exactly according to plan, which it won't, we have an ability to pivot and make changes along the way. Third part is the system. The system is simply the mechanism that allows the strategy to be executed on a consistent basis. So the example I give here is, you think of a company like McDonald's, which is all over the world. If you go to 2 different McDonald's in the same town and order the same thing, the food's going to look exactly the same. You wouldn't be able to tell which one came from which store. Why? Because McDonald's has such a tight system that no matter where you go, no matter who's working there, the outcome is exactly the same. That's a system. McDonald's doesn't necessarily have the best quality food, if you even want to call it food. We've been generous. It's that they have the best system. So anybody can work in McDonald's. You don't have to have any kind of skills. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to bring any skill to the table, because they will tell you exactly what to do. As long as you can follow instructions, you can work in McDonald's. Right? You don't have to have any. There are no prerequisite abilities that you have to have. And that's the value of their system. And then the fourth part is the accountability. And accountability, most people, when they hear that, they're thinking, okay, yeah, that's why I need a coach. Coach can hold me accountable, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yes, that is part of accountability. But the other half of accountability is we got to make sure we're holding the process accountable. because if you're executing like you're supposed to and doing all the right things, yet the outcome is not being achieved, maybe there's something in the process that is flawed. Maybe we got to change something in the process. Maybe we need to adjust something. Maybe things have changed. The ground has shifted under our feet. So the process was working 6 months ago, but it's not working now. Well, that's because times have changed. So now we got to adjust our system to keep up with what's going on right now. So accountability is not just for the person, but it's also for the process, making sure the process is doing what it's supposed to do. And if it's not, making our necessary adjustments. And then this just all goes in a cycle. So those 4 pieces: mindset, strategy, systems, execution, accountability.
Love it. Sounds very similar to what I do with my clients as well. And I love that you pointed out that these things can change. Like the system is not set in stone. It's something that if your circumstances change, or if the environment changes, if any factor in the equation changes, then the process is likely to change as well. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. Like you have to adjust as you go. Now, where can people find out more about you if they would like to connect or learn more about your work?
Best place to find me would be at workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where we do all our coaching, all our courses, all of those things are there. But as far as social media, I'm on all the social media platforms. I publish to every one of them at least one time a day. I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram is just my name, at Dre Baldwin, because I use the Instagram stories function a healthy amount. And Instagram just opened the Threads app, so I'm on there as well. So you can find me on any social media platform actively every day.
Perfect. Dre, thank you so much for sharing all your tips and insights with us today. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Take care and talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. That's a fantastic, easy, and zero-cost way to help the show grow. Just use the link in the show notes and make my day. Want more? For quick, actionable tips and insights to guided meditations and a side of biohacking, join my inner circle and get access to exclusive subscriber-only content. Again, just use the link in the show notes to join the tribe. Thank you for your support and see you on the other side. Take care and talk soon. Bye.